If you could sum up your entire life in one word, do you know what that word would be?
I think I'd have to say, it sounds kind of nuts, but I would say hope. I always hope to be champion of the world, and as long as you have that dream, you can stay alive. Because if you don't have any hope, you can't be happy.
Patterson landed left to the ribs, then took a severe body bombing. Chuvalo dug two more hard left hooks to the ribs. Patterson connected with a left and a right, then did it again. Chuvalo kept coming in.
Since Earl Walls retired, the Canadian heavyweight boxing title has belonged to no one. This recent teenager, George Louis Chuvalo, is after that title and bigger ones beyond. His ambitions for himself as a boxer know no limit.
George Chuvalo was one of Canada's greatest heavyweight boxers. In a career of 93 fights, he was never knocked off his feet. He fought against the best: Floyd Patterson, George Foreman, and even Muhammad Ali.
After the fight, Ali went to the hospital with bleeding kidneys, and I went dancing with my wife. Yeah.
Chuvalo is known to most as the toughest boxer of all time, never taking a step back in the ring, always moving forward.
Terrell missed the title shot just to keep him fighting Chuvalo again. He thought that Chuvalo would beat him again because it was close. That shows you how tough Chuvalo is. So.
Although he proved himself to be the toughest of boxers against the greatest of fighters, his truest test would come outside of the ring. No matter how hard Chuvalo trained, he could not prepare for what was about to happen to him. On February 18, 1985, Chuvalo's youngest son, Jesse, a steady heroin user, took his own life at the age of 20.
My son Jesse, in the despair of addiction, took a 22 caliber rifle, lodged it against the roof of his mouth, pulled the trigger, and sealed not only his own fate, but the fate of two of his brothers and his mother.
In the next 10 years, tragedy would rock George Chuvalo's life. His sons Georgie Lee and Stephen would also succumb to the dangers of heroin addiction. On October 31st, 1993, Georgie Lee was found dead in a nearby hotel room from a heroin overdose.
They found him much the same way they would find his older brother 3 years later, body slumped in a chair, wearing just a pair of undershorts with a syringe sticking out of his left arm.
Chuvalo did everything he could in order to save his drug-addicted sons.
My dad spent quite a few years chasing my brothers and I around the city, Georgie and I in particular, and dragging us out of drug houses and heroin houses and, basically just trying to keep us alive.
I didn't want my sons to die, but they died in spite of what I did. They still died, but they certainly would have died if I didn't do anything. They died quicker.
The death of his two sons was just too much for his family, especially George Chuvalo's wife, Lynn.
After we lost our son, Georgie Lee, my wife and I couldn't stand looking at each other. That's not meant out of disrespect. It's just the fact that when we look at each other, it'd be a reflection of our own pain.
The pain was too extreme for Lynn. 4 days after Georgie Lee's funeral, the sorrow drove her to take an overdose of prescription pills.
I walked around the bed. I saw her face blackish blue, badly swollen, clutching the cremated remains of our son Jesse, and a suicide note.
Heroin had shattered Chuvalo's life, but the pain was still not over. Chuvalo's oldest son, Stephen, could not keep away from the temptation of drugs. On August 17, 1996, his body was found in his sister's apartment.
And Stephen was going to come around with me to speak to young people. On December the 7th, 1995, I went to see my son in jail, and I told him that I'd spoken to a charity earlier that morning, and they asked me if I would be willing to go around the country along with my son to speak to young people. And I thought it was a great idea. My son thought it was a great idea. My son never did have a chance to speak to young people. My my son died 30 days before we were supposed to make our first presentation.
Although his son couldn't live up to his commitment of reaching out to young people, George, ever the fighter, stepped forward.
The greatest fighter amongst this group is a man named George Chuvalo. Today we will hear his story. Please listen, reflect, embrace what this man has to tell you so that you don't have to experience the pain that he has.
Chuvalo now takes his tragic story and shares it with audiences around Canada, hoping that his anti-drug message will convince them to make the right choices. For him, it's therapeutic to help make sense of his past.
By going around the country, I speak to young people. I get a chance to feel better because I think my presentations are doing some good. If I didn't do it, I guess it'd be kind of like my sons and my wife died in vain. Because I do it, I say to myself, because my wife and my 3 sons died, they have a chance to help somebody.
Chuvalo takes the bitter high road of reliving his experience in front of young people. By bearing his soul to each generation of potential drug users, he reaches out and connects with children in a way that he could not to his own. Perhaps this painful process gives him a feeling of redemption and hope.
And we'd like to thank you for coming in here because we honestly could find no one else that we believe has ruled over their universe with more courage, dignity, and respect than you. And so we'd like to present you with this shirt. Once a Titan, always a Titan.
Is it hard to do? Yes, it is. Do I always feel I do it? No, I don't. But because I get positive feedback from the kids, I get positive feedback from the students and staff and so on. If I didn't get it, I couldn't keep going. I wouldn't have anything to fall back on. I wouldn't have anything to make me feel good. And I have to feel good about going around the country. So that part of it makes me feel good.
Chuvalo's painful life, with his storytelling ability, can capture any listener. The pain and hardship he encountered at home outweighs anything he had faced in the ring.
I've been hurt a lot worse through drugs because when my family never got hurt, of course, fighting. The pain that you go through never ends. Because if you don't have any hope, you can't be happy. You always have hope. And even though I lost a lot, I still have hope because I have my grandchildren, I have my son and my daughter still have, and I still can find some happiness. And I'm always hoping that things can change. Anything that's negative in my life can turn into a positive. So I'll use the word hope. And I don't know if that's a strong enough word, but that fits me the way I feel right now. I'd say, well, hope, because I still hope that the good things are going to happen.